Hi, I'm Jim Wright, and I'm going to show you how to do a podcast. You should be able to see the Submit Media menu item. You go down in that to the New Podcast item. That'll bring up a window that's going to have the editors for setting up the new podcast. Okay, we're now in the editor for doing the new podcast. The next thing I'd suggest doing is going down and seeing if you have your speaker available. Okay, our speaker in this case, her name is Katie Lambert. So let's go down and see if Katie Lambert is available as one of the speakers. And we'll see that she's not. So the first thing you should do is go create a speaker entry for Katie so that you can associate her with the podcast. And to do that, you go and you select the green cross. And it brings up another editor page that gives you the ability to create the speaker information. So her name is Katie Lambert. The next thing we'll need to do is create an alias, the internal system name. Now you notice that I have done this before, and each system name has to be unique, even if you deleted the previous one. So I always put a little index at the end, which will make that unique so that we can go ahead and create her entry. The category is going to be full spectrum, which is the general category for podcasts, and we'll leave it at published. The next thing we'll want to do is have an intro, which intros her biography. And so I've got a little intro here for her. And then we'll want to go down and provide the bio itself. In this case, we'll note that there is a second speaker who's contributing. And so we'll put her in as well as a contributing speaker so that she's acknowledged. Okay, so we have the bios in. The next thing we want to do is go into an area called Details, and here we can put in a website to provide a credit to the website where we found this podcast. And this is in a series of stuff you missed in history class. And we'll want to put in a picture. We'll put in just the first author's picture. So we'll hit a select, and we'll go to a file manager for the media area. We scroll through the directories there. We'll find one called podcasts. And we'll want to have the things that are needed for the podcast in that area. First thing we want is Katie's photograph. So if we hit choose files, we'll see in our file manager on our laptop, we'll see her photograph. We can open that, and then we can start uploading that. And that will appear in the podcast directory. If we select her image, it'll show up in the image as the image URL, and there's the file name. And then we go to the right and we'll find an insert button which will provide that information to her bio area. If we go over the little preview area, then you can see in fact her image pop up, which means we have the correct one. So we now have name, we have a unique alias, we have an intro, we have a bio, and we've got the details we need, website, picture. So let's go ahead and save that. So So now we're back in the podcast area, and let's see if we have a speaker we can select. We go down, and in fact, oh yes, we see Katie is now a full-fledged speaker, and she's available to select. So now let's go ahead and fill out the rest of the podcast. The title for this podcast is going to be Jewish Pirates. The alias will make up, again, as we usually do, the words of the title. And again, it's wise to have a index at the end to make sure that the name is unique if we've maybe tried to upload it before. Go down to category, it's going to be full spectrum, and status will be published. Now, we go down and we have a chance to provide a description for the podcast. So I've got a description here. We'll put that in the text editor. And we'll need to upload the audio file, which will be an MP3 file that will have the podcast in it. So let's go and hit the upload button. It'll again bring open my file manager, and I can go and select the podcast MP3 file and open that. You notice there's a progress bar, and it's uploading the file while we wait. It takes only... Okay, it should be uploaded. And we notice that we see a URL for the MP3 file in the box up here, so we know that we've uploaded it. Let's go down farther, and there's a details section for the podcast itself. Podcast can be a member of a series. In this case, we just have one podcast, not a whole series. We'll just put a 1 here. There's a date the podcast is created. We then are going to, we've got Katie selected as the author for the podcast. Series, again, is in the general topics, full spectrum. And we can associate a picture with the podcast, and typically we'll associate the author's picture. So we'll go back and for the picture and do a select again. That lands us in the file manager for the media area on the website. We go over to the podcast directory. And of course we have Katie's picture already sitting there. And so we don't have to load it again. We can simply insert it. Okay, so let's save and close. Now, if we go to the media podcast area, what do we see? We in fact do see a Jewish Pirates. So if you go to Katie Lambert's area, we can see there's her bio that we put in, plus the credit to Sarah Dowdy. If we go to the topic area, her picture, and of course the podcast itself, and a download button so you can download it.
Hello and welcome to the podcast. I'm Katie Lambert. And I'm Sarah.
So we have uploaded our first podcast, and it is a fairly lengthy process. You do have to pay attention to detail, but you can upload very professional podcasts along with the information that allow people browsing the site to find stuff that will interest them.